And we are live, so take it away, Melanie.
Thank you so much, Sophia. And good afternoon, and welcome to Book Chat with Pratt. I'm Melanie Jacobs, a librarian with the Pratt Light Street branch. Today, business owner Nye Chamberlain is joining us to share her story in celebration of Black Business Month and discuss various Pratt business resources. So go to prattlibrary.org to learn more about the materials and databases available from Pratt. As you know, your journey starts here. There will be a Q&A at the end of the program. So please submit your comments and your questions. We'd love to have an interactive program and hear what you are thinking. A bit of background information. Miss Chamberlain is the owner of Nye and Company Salon in Mount Rainier, Maryland. She's dedicated her life to her passions, hair care, and educating others. Nye was born and raised in Baltimore and graduated from the Baltimore School for the Arts. She has over 20 years of experience as a licensed cosmetology instructor and is an award-winning natural hair stylist and curl enthusiast. In 2018, she made the decision to start her own business. But let me stop talking. Who better to share the details of her personal journey to becoming an entrepreneur than Nye herself? So, welcome, Nye Chamberlain, and thank you for joining us today to share your inspiring story.
Thank you so much for having me, Melanie. This is an awesome experience. You summed it up very well. I feel like we can go home now. Pretty much done. We've got it all in. But I'm very excited to be here, especially because you're in my hometown. And Baltimore is a gem to me. It's a gift to me. It's where I grew up and spent a lot of time at the Enoch Pratt Free Library. So this is full circle.
Did you go to the central location or was
yes,
there?
I was going to the central location on the number 3 bus. I walked over and I would spend the afternoon there sometimes just because the air conditioner was on. And so on a hot day, right, you could come in and hang out. And the children's section was amazing with the fish downstairs. So I remember it like it was yesterday.
You remember everything. That is great. So let's get started about talking about business and resources. Did you experience an aha moment or a gradual realization that you wanted to start your own business?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it was gradual. Like many things in our lives, the serendipitous pieces that kind of come together, you're not at a sense of awareness that they're all connected. And so there are moments in your life where you're having experiences and interacting with people and developing skills. And it's not until you come into that aha moment and they all connect to say, I'm actually prepared to do something on my own. So I will definitely say it was a gradual experience.
Okay, and I know when you made the leap, you started out renting a 200 square foot space in DC.
Yeah. That was crazy. I decided in a last minute situation, just really, quite honestly, out of survival, that I needed a place to be able to start to take some clients. I mean, honestly, I just had bills that were collecting, and this was on the cusp of some changes in my life, moving from a corporate atmosphere, working with companies that I thought that I was kind of laying a foundation for growing in their kind of, their kind of construct. And then all of a sudden, the rug gets pulled from under you. And when that happened, I didn't have a chance to really think about what it all meant. Out of that motherly survival mode, like my kids got tuition, I've got to figure out something. And sometimes in those moments when you don't overthink it, an opportunity presents itself. And that was in the form of a good friend of mine, quite honestly, just loaning me her space in the moment. She happened to be out of town and she said, hey, this space is available. I said, I don't have tools. And she said, here, borrow this. She even gave me her mirror. And that was the beginning of our story, 200 square feet. And one by one, the idea and the space grew.
And I know you incrementally expanded that square footage as your company grew in
Yes.
DC. And then you made the decision to move to Mount Rainier.
Yeah, I think in the beginning I wouldn't have even considered it a company. And again, that speaks to that awareness, right? It was just somebody, like in any studio suite doing hair. But as people started to realize where I was located and I was working on my own, people from all the years of doing hair started coming there, and we outgrew the space. Now this was all pre-COVID, so we were happy enough to kind of all hunker together in a very small space. But as that space grew incrementally, we probably ended up at the end of it, I would say there were probably 6 suites that we had then combined just to fit the amount of guests that we had at that point. It was COVID and the need that kind of pushed me to have a little courage to step out of that space and look for something a little bit bigger. And that's where we are today.
And I know your current salon is featured behind you. It's
Yes.
absolutely stunning.
Thank
And you
you.
now are up to 1,875 square feet. So you have grown tremendously.
Yes. Yes.
And I know there's a background story to your current location. Could you share how the space was when you started?
Yeah, part of my challenge, just being a new business, and I know that there are other business owners who can relate to this, is, in the beginning, there's not a lot of resources, or it's hard to find resources, and you're also kind of looking for somebody to take a chance on you. Anytime it's a new business, it's not a proven record, and as you look for things like spaces to build your business in, brands to get behind you, that sort of thing. They typically support the brands that have been out for a while. So we had less than 3 years under our belt at that point, and where we had, great sales, that sort of thing. We were looking for a space that was big enough for us to grow into, but we needed somebody to take a chance on us. And so the street that I'm on, which is called Rhode Island Row, which is in the historic Mount Rainier, is a special place to me because I grew up very close. Excuse me, my daughter grew up very close to here. She visited some of the local schools here, did after school programs, and I've always loved this area because it thrives in the arts. And I want to tell you, I started at the most affluent end of it, closest to the Whole Foods, if you get where I'm going, and kept asking for retail space. And I kept getting resounding no after no after no. But I really wanted to be in this particular corridor because there was an acknowledgement of the arts here. And so I'm really literally on the last block of that corridor now. This space hadn't been inhabited since I think 2007. It was last a gallery, but there had been no thriving business that stayed and flourished here. So it was always the empty space next to the police station. And it was a funky yellow color. The ceiling was kind of completely taken over by the pigeons, and it was really a sight. And when the landlord came and said, "Well, I've got this space," I kind of feel like he was like, "Take it off my hands." When I came in, I could see the vision of what it could be, and I fell in love with it. So it's so funny. Anyone else watching from the outside, not knowing, how many no's I had got, I was so excited for a yes, that we were willing to take this shell of a space and gut it out essentially and make it so everything in here is new, from the floors to the plumbing to the lighting to even the walls and the foyer that we've built. Everything is a part of that vision and came when we built it out.
And I remember you stating that your team members helped you during that process.
Absolutely. I mean, this was definitely a community supported thing. We had a very limited amount of funding for contractors. Some of it went left, and I was very transparent with my social media audience, who has always supported me, saying that, we thought this place was going to be open in a month, and it wasn't. And, because I really think I didn't understand all of the inner workings of what it took to open something. And from a contractual space, how these things had to happen. Well, you're dealing with zoning and permits and, processes and contractors, good and bad, and then the money starts, stretching, and then you're almost out of it. And there was a pivotal moment where it was kind of this before, we're coming, we're going to open soon. And we just didn't have a date. And then at some point I thought about it and I said, we've grown to this place by being authentic. And I wanted to remain in that space because so many times in a person's success story, they don't share the middle, right? So we share the beginning and we share the end. And so for a lot of people who are dreamers or looking to be inspired, it's very hard to see yourself in someone's beginning and end. But when you share the stuff that happens in the middle, that's where people can relate. That's where people can see themselves, so much so that if they see it, they're not discouraged if it happens to them. And that was the reason that I decided to share with, honestly, tears and transparency. I did it on a live. And I told everyone the challenges that we were having. We didn't have enough workers. We didn't have enough money. We were being held up in permits. And literally, the community supported. People started pouring in, words of affirmation, prayers. Even clients sent their husbands here to help me put things together. My staff, who for the entire period received no pay because we were kind of a hand to mouth at that point. They were sticking with me and they would come and we would sit in here and we would hammer floorboards. We'd paint up holes. They helped physically move furniture in. And then on the day before we opened, we didn't even have a mop. We didn't think about it. Like, we got all this stuff in place and we didn't even have a mop. And my one coworker, Odyssey, she said, we can just do it with our hands. And I thought about it, that's how my grandma cleaned the floors. And it was symbolic for me because the very first time I did hair, I was doing it in my basement. I cleaned the floors on my hands and knees. And so I had told her that story. So when she said that to me, we all just got down on our hands and knees. And it was an emotional, and it's even giving me goosebumps to think about it again, but it was an emotional space. And we cleaned this floor. And so to me, those girls are more than gold, that they would stand in support of something. And now they are a part of what we have here, which is why this is Nye and Company.
Right. What beautiful teamwork you have going through all that together.
Yeah.
And I know, well, you moved into this space in what year? 2000?
So we just opened January 2021.
Okay, that was your grand. Oh, right.
Yeah.
So how was it you went through this process during the pandemic? Can you speak to the challenges that that caused for you?
Yeah, I think for everybody, the pandemic definitely slowed things down. Slowing things down, depending upon your perspective, is a blessing or a curse. Slowing things down for us was definitely a blessing because I was able to think my way through things. I was able to apply for resources that before, when I was behind the chair, I didn't have time to do that. I barely had time to have half a sandwich. It was pretty much you're hand to mouth. But during that downtime, I turned my basement at home into like a pseudo office. I went out and got a computer and I sat it up and I got my sticky notes out and, I wanted to just affirm exactly what I wanted. And I prayed for it and I wrote things on stickies and I would write numbers like 1,300 or 1,000 or 5,000. And then I would look for resources day and night. It was like my full-time job, because there were so many links coming in all the time, but you didn't know what you really qualified for. And it seemed like everybody was throwing out money and I would just focus on that. So I will definitely say it gave me a chance to focus on what resources are out there. And even now, as we are back open, I realize that as a small business owner, and this is my advice to small business owners, you need somebody constantly looking for that in your business. So if it's a friend helping you out, or if it's a staff member, if you can afford to have staff members, someone constantly looking for the resources, because we're in an era right now where small businesses are really being focused on that. It's a full-time job. I just had time for it in COVID. And I think that was the big opportunity for me as well.
Were you able to get a PPP loan?
I was, yeah. Yeah, I was very happy about that. I didn't think that I would, because I think in the beginning they were giving it out to the major companies. And then eventually my bank did give us the PPP, which was awesome. And so I was able to back pay all of the staff. Yeah, and that's exactly what we did, which was awesome. And we're able to just, take a little seed money and start the process of even moving. Yeah.
Oh, that is fantastic. I know that you were kind enough to share some books with us that, of course, we just happen to have in the Pratt collection.
Oh.
and this one, you told me, gave you inspiration.
Yes.
Crushing by T.D. Jakes.
Yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the book and the inspiration that it gave you?
Yeah. T.D. Jakes, everybody knows, he is the consummate of words. Like his ability to articulate things and to, use words that you have to look up. I really enjoy that because I'm a lover of words. And he has such a description and an eloquence when he speaks that you really get the feeling like you're listening to poetry. And so I think that's the thing that attracts me to him as a writer. His faith in God is another piece that, and his drive for his message through that construct of faith, I relate to as well, because I am completely centered around my faith. But this particular story, his level of vulnerability really spoke to me, because when we are called to be a leader or to be an advocate or to be a person of service to inspire, most times we have the hardest testimonies. And what is revealed in those testimonies, when you can hold on to the very recipe that you are trying to give to others, is that there is evidence of it working. And crushing really creates an analogy of the pressing of grapes into wine. And all that the grapes endure, he uses as an analogy through the pressing moments of his life, and actually challenges the reader to look at a different perspective on it. That it's not a futile, just random thing that happens. That in actuality, God is using you and putting you through fires so that what is produced at the end is a fine wine. And being able to see someone who has been as successful as him, first of all, share vulnerabilities that he's been through some really tough stuff in his life, made me feel like if he could go through this and use this perspective to guide himself out, what are the places in my life that I could look at as not necessarily failures, but a pruning, so to speak, a plucking from the vine, a acknowledgement of the source that we come from, and then an acceptance in the responsibility that you're given, and almost wearing it like a badge of honor for the things that you've been through versus a walk of shame.
Excellent. And we can tell you have your faith and you placed it in yourself, and it worked out wonderfully.
Yes, ma'am.
So yay. So everyone, we have a link in the comments where you can see the link to the Pratt book that you can request. The next, we also had for inspiration, you had Hair Story, Untangling the Roots of Black Hair in America, by Lana Bird and Lori Tharp. What can you tell me about this book?
Oh my God, we need an hour just for that one, Melanie. There's just so much gold in that book, so much gold. I actually was first introduced to the book back in 2018, and I gave it to a fellow business owner who was opening a hair salon, just as, just saw it on the shelf and gave it to her. And then later I decided to pick it up and read it. And she does a great contextual historical kind of picture painting, if you will, of the plight of the African American, the African to the African American, of what the significance of our hair really meant. And I think that it is a story that every person of color should read, especially if you have little girls, to really understand that it is more than just hair for us, and it always has been. Whether it was, in Africa, braids were a sign for messages in the hair, or a connection to a particular tribe, or it showed classism. It was also a way to express grief, to show that someone was disheveled. It was a form of communication. And when you understand our roots, it's understandable why that process is very emotional, and we're emotionally connected to it even today. I think it is a great story for me, and it has served as inspiration, because part of the work that I do here at our salon is really giving my guests another perspective on how to see their hair naturally. We are a natural hair salon, so we focus on the natural curls that you come with, kinks, coils, that sort of thing. Being an upscale salon, we do attract a lot of affluent African-American women who may be bosses in their life, may be at the top of their game, and are still working through self-imaging and looking for resources for positive self-imaging. So understanding our story and our plight is helpful in me connecting with each of these women, and in my own understanding, to see myself, as beautiful as I am. When you think about the characterization, even in slavery, of what our hair was and how we were kind of ripped of our own identity, here's an opportunity when you wear your hair natural to redefine your identity, and to see that it's directly linked to something that's so culturally rich that it cannot be denied. And that is part of, what I hope to do here in community. And so that book is a great timeline, a descriptive, beautifully rich timeline to really understand the whole story. I highly recommend it.
Wonderful. I read the your business vision statement,
Yes.
which is very unique, and you have several points. But the two that stuck out in my mind were, they included differences should be celebrated.
Yes.
And self-acceptance is powerful.
Yep.
So your mission statement is wonderful, and it sounds like this book really did inspire you.
Absolutely.
The next book you shared with us is for information specific to your organic niche, A Consumer's Dictionary of Cosmetic Ingredients.
Yes.
By Winter. I should have been doing this. I should have been holding the screen's backwards, so I hope it's in there somewhere.
I see it.
Okay, good. And we do have the links on the side in the chat. So what can you tell me about this book?
So, we all have a gift, and then we need resources, right? And so part of our vision here is to stay as organic as possible. We want to eventually become a certified organic salon. But right now we connect to the title organic. And so the idea is that everything that we need, we find in nature. And so living an organic life, living a natural life, things of that nature requires consumers to be informed. And so I try to cultivate label readers with my guests, understanding that the first 15 ingredients on a label are in highest concentration. What are active ingredients, right? And then some of the words and language can look pretty scary on a bottle, but sometimes can just be something that keeps the liquid and cream from separating. And so it would kind of debunk and demystify certain words as well. And so because I never went to school for chemistry, even though cosmetology is a form of a science, this served as a great resource for me. I could take a word, look it up there, and this book does a great job of not even just explaining what the chemical compound is, but what products it's typically used in and what some of the side effects can be. And so, by no means have I, completely, mastered this book at all, but it does serve as an on-hand resource for me when people are looking for things like allergens or they're not sure about a particular product. And I can feel confident when I give information. I will tell you, you can tell a book when a person's used it all the time. The sides are bent up. It's been stuffed in my purse. It's been with me everywhere. And it was actually a gift from a great friend. But it has really become like one of the books that I always have with me.
Well, it just sounds like a great reference book.
Yeah.
And that is wonderful. And then you also shared for team management, 5 Levels of Leadership by John C. Maxwell.
Hands down, one of my favorite books ever. I cannot recommend this book enough. And not just for people, any leader. And what he really points out in that book, I mean, there's so many nuggets in that book. But one of the major things that he really points out in that book is that we're in constant relationship with each other, whether we're aware of it or not. And we are sending out signals in those relationships as to what kind of leader we want to be. The 5 levels of leadership really speaks to different levels of connection that you can have with a person. And if you're really a leader, it's a place of influence. And most times we think when it comes to our jobs, I'm the boss. So if I'm the boss, I tell the worker to do something and the expectation is that they do it. Well, you're not a leader until that person's really following you. And telling someone to do something is not the best way to get their buy-in. And so he really just opens up a different way of thinking about how to be in relationship with the people that you work with. And then those relationships are then tiered as the relationship deepens and the investment grows. So it not only grows the person, but it also grows you as a leader. I have used this book from my first exposure to it in probably 2016 as a construct for my entire business. I mean, everything about what he says in this book is the type of thinking that goes into who we staff this place with, how we interact, from our team building exercises. My goal here is that when we employ people, we are employing little leaders. And whatever it is that they excel at, it's my job to give them the platform to grow that. Because when people are invested in an idea, you don't have to tell them to work. They just do it, right? But it requires being aware of that on a constant basis. So when I tell you I'm growing as a person and in development from this book, I cannot recommend this book and it's been a while since he wrote it, but it still stands true. Hands down, one of the best books I've ever read.
Is managing one of your biggest challenges, or this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, every job I've had some supervisory capacity in every job that I've had. And I could not understand, I'm such a person full of passion. Why can't I get these people to do what? Because you think they're looking from your vantage point. They're not. Most times, you've got people on level 1, which are, people who are positional. They follow you just because of the title. Well, those are people that are going to show up for work, but beyond you giving them a paycheck and a list of things to do, they have zero interest. They're ready to head out that door, when the clock is over. And then there are other people who, that are on a relationship level. They follow you because they believe in you or they trust you. That means you have to learn something about them. So I didn't have any idea that these levels of leadership, people always just identified a skill in me to lead and threw me in a position with zero real training, and I was so defeated. My very last job, where I worked in a corporate environment, I oversaw students, teachers, and I had so much passion in me and so much, that I wanted to give. And I really could not understand why it was not being conveyed equally to all these people, and it wasn't until I started reading that book that I started to understand the relationship. And it allowed me to be more gentle on myself. You can't make somebody who is in a positional relationship with you do something that would be required of somebody who has already been cultivated as a leader. They're just not the same place. Doesn't mean that person can't get there, but it's a process. And so this book gives literally the recipe for that process. It is gold.
Well, I'm sure motivation is key
Yes.
to anyone. And it's rather like the adage, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
This is true. This is true.
And
Absolutely.
I think that's a goal we each have, that we want to enjoy every day and going to work and our job and all of our relationships there.
And one of the beautiful things is that, you know, sometimes we think we're in a position that we can't enjoy because it maybe is not, you know, the very thing that we always saw ourselves doing. Well, instead of trying to look at it from that perspective, it's like, what in this, you know what I'm saying, could I take away from and learn, and could I find enjoyment in that? Creating an environment where people can enjoy each other is so important to real momentum. And that's really what you want in an environment, momentum. And that has to be constantly worked at. It's not something you can set or put in a handbook and then put it out in front of everybody expecting. You have to build a team. You have to build the relationships with each other. My ultimate goal is to open a hair school. And so, you know, fingers crossed, if we can get, you know, a couple of these built, then I can focus on that, because I have so much knowledge to pour back after working in hair schools for so long. I really want to fill the gap. And so I'm looking to build that team. We're actually hiring here too as well. If there's anybody out there who is in our area and feels like that this kind of place can speak to the values that they share, we have some entry-level positions. You know, you can always email us, and we'd love to, you know, consider you as a part of the team.
Well, it sounds like you have a long-term business plan.
Yes.
You have goals.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And they're constantly changing. I mean, they say your business plan is supposed to be a living, breathing document that is constantly being poured into, changed, erased, that sort of thing. That lets you know that you're working your model. Because if it's just, you know, it's too inflexible just to write down a goal and just say, I hope I get there. Because what God shows you along the path is twists and turns and saying, here's a better way, or here's another idea, or here's another resource. So you need to be open to that all the time.
And you mentioned resources.
Yes.
Let's talk about some organizations that you used as resources. One of them was WEB, the Women's Entrepreneurs of Baltimore program. What would you like to say about them?
Yeah, so I actually, oh gosh, you are really going all the way back, Mommy. So the WEB program was my first introduction to the idea of working for yourself. And when I tell you, that is a great place to start if you have no idea of how to do this. Do you know what I mean? They didn't make any question seem too small. You know, just we practice things like how to speak to somebody and describe your business in less than 2 minutes. Things like that. What your business card should look like. What is a demographic and who are your demographic? That sort of thing. And this was a resource that was available to me during a time in my life when I was unemployed. So so I was able to get into the program. You had to write an essay. I was able to get into the program. And some people did it just to check a box. I will definitely say, oh, I'm doing something besides not working. But I really thrived there. I had some great mentors there. I was so proud when I got that certificate. And some of those same fundamentals around business plan writing, I still use to this day.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
And you also mentioned the Think Box group in Washington, D.C.
Yes. So this cohort was a great combination of people who were more experienced and seasoned in business, and people who had great ideas from the tech world, from all different industries, that were in this kind of one room. And they just gave such thought-provoking questions and had us all answer them from our different perspectives. We would meet virtually when COVID hit, but before that, we would get together and have these great conversations. And you learn so much from each other. And what I realized in that is that businesses need to lean on each other for support. this whole idea of, you're an island, that you can create everything by yourself, is just futile, and it's a waste of time. You absolutely need to align yourself with other businesses. Even if you're not using them as a resource in terms of maybe vendors, that sort of thing, you want to learn from each other. Business owners, we owe it to the ethers to constantly give back what we've learned, so that it may help somebody else to avoid a stumbling block, because someone did that for us. And this was a great platform to be able to do that. And I mean, some of those guys, just amazing business owners, some of them doing very, very well. And I just felt privileged to be even in the company of them.
Networking sounds so important.
So important, so important. And we need to think of it as more than just, handing somebody a business card and shaking a hand. You really want to, when you're in a networking opportunity, ask people their story. I mean, when you can go in and have that kind of conversation with people, you really get to see the passion that's there. And no matter where you are in your journey, whether you're seasoned or not, whether you're a millionaire or not, people can always relate to the emotional space. And that's a great place to get in, where it doesn't really feel, contrived, and you can really learn a lot from a person. I also think every business owner should have a mentor, and it should change often. You can't stay with the same person your whole life, and they're giving you only one perspective and experience. And it's hard to know when you've outgrown a mentor, but you'll know. It's at the point where they start giving you too many cautions, like, oh, no, maybe you shouldn't try that, because maybe that it's reached the level that they've had experience with, right? And it's up to us to constantly change those mentors in our lives, so that we can learn from each other and to be a mentor as well.
Oh, and one last organization, the Maryland Business Express Office. Is that where all your paperwork and certificates?
Yeah, Maryland has made it very easy, which is one of the reasons we wanted to move to Maryland from DC. They've made it very comprehensive and very easy to find resources. Just going to that website, there are things that I didn't know I needed. For example, I thought you just needed, an LLC and articles of incorporation. But if you want to, have a name, you can do a DBA. I mean, things that I really never understood. There are great explanations there. They link you directly to forms that you need. The tax laws are explained in great detail, and their newsletter comes to you all the time, so you're kept abreast of things. So it's a great way, if you're a small business, to manage the overwhelming idea of, how do I, create legitimacy in my business? And that, I cannot stress it enough, because it's directly linked to financial resources. Sometimes we think, let's just work under the table, but you're missing out on so much. Legitimize your business, even just giving it an LLC or getting an EIN number, because there are tons of resources that taxpayers are paying so that we can thrive, that you can't even get unless you're taking advantage of that.
So it sounds like books and people networking,
yes,
and web resources all helped you build and grow.
Absolutely.
I'm sure that's inspired the people watching today. Let's see. Let's look for some comments and questions.
Okay.
Have we missed anything? Is there something else you would like to share that we have not touched upon yet?
Let's see. No, I'm sure, any questions coming up, maybe I'll have some more to share, but you've been very thorough, Miss Melanie.
Okay.
Get some water, girl. You got me talking over here.
I know. Well, let's see. We have shared all of the links to the Pratt books that we mentioned today. I'm going to start at the top of the comments and see. Let me go back here. Sorry, as I click away. I know I saw a couple. Let's see. Kimberly, so much growth, such a beautiful space and beautiful business.
Oh, thank you, Kimberly.
And Brigitte says hello. She's watching from Southern California.
Hi, Bridget.
Nye Chamberlain has always been such an inspiration to me as an entrepreneur. Her beautiful spirit has left such a positive impact in my life.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much.
Mark gives you a shout out that he is so proud of you
Oh my goodness,
at
that's my
night.
nephew.
I
Hey
was
there.
going to say, yeah,
Aw.
he's proud to be your nephew. Um, Kimberly's asking, now that you've celebrated all of this growth or you have all this celebration of the growth and expansion, have you as a business owner taken time to pause, rest, and celebrate the beautiful chapter in your story? That is a great question.
And that sounds like somebody that knows me. Because she knows the answer is no, right? No, and that's kind of the space that I'm in. As in terms of my personal development, I share a lot with my online audience, and so on my Instagram and my stories, I talk to my guests very openly about what it's like being kind of thrust into this space of responsibility and having such a focus on and drive here that sometimes your own personal self-care falls to the wayside. And so, actively, I'm working to change some things, not work as much, to depend more on my team. And this is a part, again, like we talked about, that development. You've kind of developed these leaders, now let them lead. And so, part of that means too, I'm working less hours. Turning off my phone on the weekends because, with the small business owner, it's kind of this idea you're always working. And so turning off my phone on the weekends. A lot of them are following me with this 30-day detox challenge. So, I was sharing with you earlier, Melanie, I've had no coffee now for 3 days. So I'm trying to really kick the sugar habit because I know that, anxiety and things that don't serve a balanced life can get in the way. And so it's my goal to kind of, be able to manage that a little better. So I'm working on it, Kimberly.
Well, yay. Good luck on your work-life balance.
You.
We all need that.
Yes.
I'm still going. Let's see. Oh, Brigitte is saying she is a true visionary.
Oh, thank you so much, Bridget.
And I pronounced her name wrong. I apologize.
No. She says Brigitte and Bridget. So yes, you're absolutely right.
I didn't know which way to go. So
yeah, you're absolutely right.
She also commented that she loves your advice. She's definitely felt like she's outgrown her mentor and have not even thought about leaving them. What you just said spoke volumes to her and made her think about something that has never come to mind. I don't think that is a perspective that you think of, like, I'm going to outgrow my mentor. So she really appreciates you sharing that.
And you mentioned the difference between gradual moments and ahas. I think I've had a little of both in my journey. And I remember having a lunch some years ago when I saw how quickly we were multiplying in that 200 square foot space. And I always pretty much had the same couple of mentors. So I, asked everybody to come to lunch because the first thing you want to do is kind of share this idea. And I'm like, what if I could really build, a brand here? I'm seeing a lot of clients. Maybe I could get a larger space. And, up until that point, most of the advice that was coming from this set of mentors was just about believe in yourself, which is what I needed at that point in my life. But this idea of competing on a major level with some of the major salons that were in my area, the sentiment was pump your brakes, Nye. You don't have any, you're going to need a certain amount in the bank to even play with these guys. And, when I thought about relationships with certain vendors, we're proud to be a part of the Aveda network as well, which is a very great organic brand that I've had experience with in the past. But, thinking about, could they be a vendor for us? They only deal with companies that are at this level, that level, that sort of kind of conversation. It really dawned on me in that moment. And I think that people always have the best intention when they do that. When they're hesitant with you, it's because they're worrying for you, right? But worrying is energy too, right? And this is why we have to be careful where we place the words of our vision. We want to put it in a place where someone's going to want to personify or encourage in that regard. And so sometimes getting all of that kind of, well, this could go wrong, this could go wrong, this could go wrong, can be discouraging. And so you really want to think about, where else can you look? Who's around you, celebrating and doing and taking those kind of risks around you. And if you look around, people all around you, they don't have to be in the same industry that you're in. Some of my greatest mentors even now are in education, they're in other realms, and I'm still getting nuggets from them on a regular basis.
Wonderful. Pratt's just posted a survey that we hope people will take a moment just to share with us your experience today and comments about the program with Nye Chamberlain. Nye, thank you so much. The hour's gone by so quickly.
Wow.
And just thank you for sharing your story and all of the resources which helped turn your dream into reality. It's truly obvious that you have a passion for what you do. And congratulations on your business success and accomplishments.
Thank you.
And thank you, audience. I hope viewers watching have been inspired to start or grow your own business. I think Nye her story gives all sorts of golden nuggets for anyone to use. And hopefully you will use the Pratt Business Resources and databases to assist you. That is what we are here for. And this might be of interest also. It was just announced on social media yesterday that customers can fill out a form online and book a free 60-minute video chat by appointment with a subject specialist librarian. We have a career center and the business science and technology department in Central, with these dedicated librarians with all this wonderful expertise. Wow. So we just shared the link that you can sign up online to schedule one of those appointments. Go to prattlibrary.org to learn more. But I think this is going to be a useful tool also for entrepreneurs who need to get started or grow. So please take advantage of it. As previously mentioned, August is Black Business Month. Next week on Book Chat, join Pratt's business and nonprofit librarians to chat about new business books, learn about nonprofit organizations working in Baltimore to support the Black business community, and I'm sure they'll also talk more about this new service. So it has been a pleasure, Nye. I hope everyone stays safe, stay well, enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and prosper.
Thank you so much, Melanie, for having me. I really enjoyed myself. You have a great week, okay?
Thank you. Bye, everyone.